Hey, Lacrosse fans, Scott Gabrielsen here. Welcome to another edition of the Philadelphia Wings Alumni Spotlight. Today, I'm joined by former Wings defenseman and current Drexel University head men's lacrosse coach, Brian Voelker. Volks, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. It's great to catch up with you, Gabes.
Yeah, you too. You too. So, great to see you. Been some time. Congratulations on all the success that you've been having with lacrosse and everything you've done. For our fans out there, I want to give a little background or bio on you. So Brian Voelker was a three-time All-American at Johns Hopkins in college, Team USA, two-time world champ, and in '98 voted the best defenseman in the world for Team USA. For the Wings, he played 7 seasons, 92 to 98. Both shared 3 championships during that time. And you were a consistent part of the nucleus of those great championship teams, folks. Tell us about some of those memories and what that meant to you playing for the Wings during your years.
Yeah, I mean, the Wings was such a great experience in so many ways for me. Obviously the on the floor success that we had was incredible. I think the 7 years I played, I think we were in the championship game 5 years. And obviously winning 3 of those was incredible. The fans, I was thinking about it before I got on this thing. I felt like sometimes we had more fans at our practice on Wednesday night over in Jersey than we had, some of the away games. And then just the home fans, the crowds that we got, they traveled, they got on buses and drove to Buffalo and spent the night in buses and came up and, they were all part of that thing. So that was great. And then obviously just, the connection that we had as a group, the players had and still have, to this day. Just that stuff is invaluable. I mean, you obviously think of the stuff on the field and on the floor, the wins and some of the losses and some of that stuff and some of the funny stuff that happened. But the times that we had, after the games and the post games, and we won a lot of those post games too.
Never lost a post game.
Never lost a post game. And, the connections that we still have and the great friends, when I moved from Baltimore to Philadelphia, to take the job at Penn before I was a Drexel coach, it was such an easy transition for me, because all the Wings guys were around and my wife knew all, the wives and the girlfriends, and that group has really stayed together. And we're getting old now and we don't get together as much as we should probably, but you can always call me and say, hey, let's do this, or can you help me do that, and I can do the same for you. And there's 10, 12, 15 guys that we can all do that with, and that's really unusual. I mean, I don't think any people can really know what that's like and what our group is really like. And obviously I think part of it was the success we had, but part of it was just the guys. It started at the top with Dave Evans as the coach, and then Tony coming in, but also just the guys and how much we cared for each other and how much fun we had together.
Your first 2 years we lost in the championship, and then we won back-to-back in '94 and '95. Talk
Right.
about what it means. I mean, you got to lose to be able to know the let's say the euphoria or thrill of victory. Talk about that mentality.
Well, my first year, I actually missed the championship game. I was coaching at Princeton, and I had a cab that was supposed to pick me up at our game and at Brown, and the guy never picked me up, and I had to hitch a ride, and I missed my flight, and
Right.
I know we ended up losing that game in Buffalo, and then we lost the next year to Buffalo. I still don't like some of those guys, but some of those guys I really like. So that was a unique thing too. Some of the guys that we played against. We had a lot of fun with those guys after games, and some of those guys are awesome guys. There's some guys I look at and I'm like, I don't know if I would talk to them still to this day. But yeah, it was, to then kind of turn it around and win those 2, and then, win it again in '98. Again, I think it was just a credit to the coaching staff, to the players, the time and the effort that we put into how much it meant to us. There's all the stories about, Flinner firing up the whole team before games, and how much it meant to him, and just how much it meant to everybody. And like I said, to me, it was so incredible, watching the fans get on buses and drive to Buffalo, and trying to drown out some of those people in the odd, which wasn't easy. But it just, the whole experience was just so cool. And yeah, obviously to win 3 championships, that stuff's not easy to do. But yeah, to lose those couple close ones, those first 2 years wasn't easy. I think we felt like, we could have won them, and we were as good as, those guys, but they were really good too. And I think that was another special thing. We did have some of those rivalries with those guys. And then, later at the end, when we beat, I think it was Baltimore in '98, some of the rivalries that we had, all that stuff was really cool. And that league was, very different than it is now in a lot of ways. I remember my first year, getting a check for, $125 after the game, and it had taxes taken out of it. And, I think there was like, $90, that we made, after taxes. And, I think guys just sat down at the bar and said, here to the bartender, I'll sign it over to you. Let me know, when I'm done. But, and I'm sure things are different now, but, we really did play because we loved it. And we took times out of our weekends. I mean, I traveled, I lived in Baltimore. I traveled up on Wednesday nights, and, I would drive with Gary and Tommy Marichek and some of those, and Jake's and some of those guys. And, Jake's and I would have to go to work the next day, and Tommy and Gary would be like practicing behind the back and jumping off the boards and doing crazy stuff that they were doing. And we were like, come on, we got to go. It's, 11 o'clock at night. We got to drive back home. Driving from Baltimore to Long Island or whatever. And, I said all the time, I used to get in fights with my wife. That's the only thing we really fought about, because she was always late. And I'm like, come on, I got to go. I got to get to the game. And, I like to get there early and get, settled in and get my stuff done. But it's just stuff that, we took time out of our lives to be a part of this thing. And, like I said, the good news is it was such a great group of guys. And even, the wives and the girlfriends, got really close, and it just created this family environment.
Yeah, no doubt. I often talk, say my, biggest pride is I was a captain of the team, but I was a captain of captains, and you were one of those examples. And I also brag about the Philadelphia Wings coaching tree and what everybody did afterwards or was doing while we were playing. And you're an absolute prime example of, guy that basically has led the coaching tree, head coach at Drexel, the impact you've had on lacrosse in the region or even across the country. You started at Princeton under Bill Tierney, then you went to Penn, and then, you're celebrating or you're entering your 15th year as coach as Drexel. Talk about that. Talk about, what it's like to have coached, coaching today, and you've actually coached a few guys that are on the floor and wearing the Wings jersey today.
Yeah, I mean, there's coaching is so much fun. It's so rewarding. It's a lot of hard work. And there's a lot of things that, you pull your hair out, and I don't have the hair to pull out, but it is so rewarding at the end of the day. I've been super lucky. We've had a really good connection in Canada, especially in Western Canada, with some of the players to come to Drexel, and Ben's, McIntosh is a great example of that. I tell the story with him all the time. He played for me all 4 years, and his first 2 years, we couldn't figure out we knew he was really good, and he played a lot and was a good player for us, but we knew he could be so much better. And we thought it was our fault that, how do we get this guy going? And his last 2 years at Drexel, I mean, he was a monster. He had two of the best seasons probably ever in Drexel history, as a midfielder, and just was like such an awesome player, and led us to the playoffs, and, to the final 8 in the NCAA tournament, and just was such a great guy. I mean, I got a lot of guys kind of sprinkled through the league, and, Church and Mitch DeSnooze had a great career up in Toronto, and, Reed out west, Bowering, it was a great player for us. And, even some guys like Zach Mans played for us for a little while, but I know there's some guys sprinkled throughout the league. But yeah, it's great to see. I mean, again, the experience I had playing indoor, I think it helps me relate to those guys a little bit when they come back. They come down to the States. There's, whether, Mitch is from the East Coast and those other guys are from the West Coast. It's a little bit of a different, thing, but I do feel like I have a little bit connection with those guys, and I do have a little bit of street cred with some of those guys. when they, can click on some old tape and see me actually out there, playing a little bit and hearing that I was actually a decent player in the box league. I think that helped me coach those guys a little bit.
Yeah, and to recap, Brian Voelker, as the head coach of Drexel, was one of the first coaches, or knew what it was, smart enough to recruit from Western Canada and brought back down Ben McIntosh, Robert Church, at least those great years when he won the CAA. Mitch DeSnew and Reed Barron, the guys that are actually making an impact. Brian Voelker has his thumbprint on their success. So congratulations on that. We're proud to see those guys running around.
Well, look, I got to give another wings guy some credit for that too. Bates, he kind of started that a little bit with Ben's older brother, with Garrett. He brought him down, and I think that helped, the connection obviously with Church and Ben. And then we had a kid, Cole Schaefer, that was a really good player from there that played a little bit in the indoor league, and then Reed. And we have a Coquitlam kid now, Max Semple, that's a really good player for us. So we've continued that. But yeah, I'll shout out to Batesy, another wings guy, who helped start that process.
Yeah. And then, you've also gone up against some of the best in the world in players. Drexel plays Albany. I remember the game at Drexel when Blaze Reardon was in the net for Albany, and Lyle and Miles Thompson were playing. My nephew, Will Gabrielsen, was in the net for you. And you had McIntosh, and I think you won that game 11-10. And it was all NLL players were all over that field.
Yeah, we had some epic battles with Albany. There was one I think the other one at our place, I think it was like a 21-19 game. Sure, Blaze doesn't want me to talk about that game. They were killing us, and we came back, and then I think they tied it, and then we ended up winning it at the end. But it was like one of the craziest games. But yeah, all those guys, incredible players, and we've always tried to challenge ourselves and play really good teams. Before we get in our league games, I think that helps our guys get better. I think our guys would want to compete against really good players and really good outside competition. We've always tried to do that stuff. But yeah, it's great to see. It's good to see those guys flying around. I would love to see more American guys. Like back in the day when we played, kind of start playing. I know there's some in the league now, but I think those guys could really make some impacts if they kind of studied it and kind of figured out how to play. But it seems like the Canadian guys and the natives are really dominating in the league right now, for obvious reasons. But I do think some of the Americans, if they got back into it, could really help.
Yeah. You're going to be there to sign autographs at halftime of this weekend's game. So talk to us about what you see in the current team and playing at the Wells Fargo Center.
I'm not sure anybody wants my autograph, but look, those games are great. I know those guys work really hard. Like I said, I think things have changed a little bit. I know a lot of those guys are, more full-time lacrosse guys, and they're becoming more pros, than we were probably, where it was just a weekend warrior kind of thing. But those guys, they're big, strong, athletic guys. The game's, really fun to watch. I don't get to as many of them as I would like to. I got a lot of lacrosse in my life. But every time I can get out there, I love seeing those guys. The last game I got to was when Kevin Finneran got in the Hall of Fame, or the Ring of Honor. And it was such a great experience to be down there on the floor and seeing the guys getting ready for the games. Brought back a little bit of the old days where maybe trying to get loosened up, and then I realized that no way that's going to happen. But yeah, the game is great, and it's fun to watch those guys. I love catching games on TV and hearing with the play-by-play and giving people an idea of what's going on out there. But I'm wishing the team well. I mean, we want those guys to do well. We love the wings. Definitely want to see them get back to hopefully some of the days where they're like us. They were competing for those championships on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah. So one last Wings memory, because you were an integral part of the Philadelphia Wings Detroit Turbos brawl, where the game got canceled in the third quarter. Talk about that when you had to take down 6'5" Peter Park in the brawl.
Yeah, well,
get some highlights of that.
I say that all the time. We got a little bit fired up, and I think you and Flinny really got your dander up that pregame, and Flinny went a little crazy, and Billy Miller went a little crazy, and all of a sudden we're kicking their butt, and they just had enough, and gloves are flying and guys are, the one dude Dance got thrown out of the game and came running back in, and like just all this craziness. And somehow I got matched up and with the biggest guy out there. And thank goodness I just like tied him up and didn't let him pound me to death. But that was, if anybody watches that highlights, it was pretty fun. It was a fun game to be a part of, especially since we were, kicking their butt sideways. And, I think we all did okay in the brawl. Maybe Billy didn't, but other than that, everybody else did all right in the brawl. But yeah, fun. All that stuff was fun stuff, fun memories. And, like I said, the good news is nobody really got hurt. And, there's a lot of, beers thrown and popcorn on the floor and equipment everywhere. And just part of the whole craziness that we were part of.
Yeah, just another great memory that we will never forget. So, Volks, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this call today. And, I think Wings fans should be supporting Drexel University because it's led by a Wings legend, Brian Voelker. And, Volks, I want to thank you for, I want to wish you the best of luck for this season and, hope to catch you at a game.
Thanks, bud.
All right, Wings fans. So we'll see you hopefully this weekend as the Wings have another home game. So thanks again for joining us. This is Scott Gabrielsen for Brian Voelker. Take care and go Wings.
Go Wings.